love your enemies. Jesus said this line about 2,000 years ago, and the phrase still makes people uncomfortable today. Not be nice to people who annoy you. Not let bad behavior slide. Love your enemies. The people who want you gone. The people who hurt you on purpose. Today you find out what Jesus meant by this command, where the idea came from, and why this teaching flips the entire ancient world upside down. Stick around because by the end, you won't read forgiveness the same way again. Picture the scene. Jesus stands on a hillside, teaching a crowd of ordinary people. Farmers, fishermen, mothers with babies on their hips. He says something no rabbi before him said out loud in quite this way. Matthew chapter 5 records the moment. You have heard that it hath been said, Thou shalt love thy neighbor, and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. Notice the setup. Jesus quotes a common saying of his day, hate your enemy, then flips the script completely. He doesn't soften the command. He doesn't add an exception for the truly awful people. He says, love them, pray for them, bless them. Sounds nice on a poster. Sounds nearly insane in real life. Quick detour first, because this next part matters. Jesus doesn't invent the eye for eye rule out of nowhere before knocking this rule down. This rule comes straight from the law of Moses, Exodus chapter 21. People often assume this rule sounds brutal. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Backwards. This law limits revenge. Ancient cultures around Israel let a small insult spiral into a bloody family feud lasting generations. The law of Moses says the punishment matches the crime and stops there. One eye for one eye, no more. Jesus takes this limit on revenge and pushes past this limit entirely. Instead of matching harm with equal harm, he asks his followers to drop the scales altogether. Not measured payback. No payback at all, replaced with active goodwill toward the person who caused the harm. This isn't a minor upgrade to the old law. This is a different universe of thinking about justice and relationships. Here's where context changes everything. When Jesus says enemy, he doesn't mean a rival at work who takes credit for your ideas. He means Roman soldiers who occupy your land by force. He means tax collectors who work for Rome and squeeze money from their own neighbors. He means people from entire ethnic groups locked in generations of hatred, like Jews and Samaritans. Picture living under military occupation. Your taxes fund the army controlling you. Soldiers force you to carry their gear a mile, no questions asked, no pay offered. Jesus preaches to people who face daily humiliation from an occupying power, and he says love these people. This isn't advice for handling an annoying coworker. This is advice for surviving under a boot and choosing not to become bitter, violent, or hateful in return. Think about the Samaritan example for a moment. Jews and Samaritans shared history, shared land, shared roots going back centuries, and still despised each other over a religious split hundreds of years old. Neighbors who avoided walking through each other's towns. Grudges passed down through grandparents, then parents, then children, like an inheritance nobody wanted but everyone kept anyway. Jesus later builds an entire parable, the Good Samaritan, around a member of this despised group acting as the hero. The crowd listening to this story would have felt genuine discomfort. Jesus keeps handing his audience examples designed to make them squirm on purpose. Now let's clear up a common misunderstanding. The word Jesus uses for love, agape in Greek, doesn't mean warm feelings, doesn't mean affection, doesn't mean you suddenly enjoy your enemy's company. Agape means active goodwill, a decision to seek someone's good regardless of how you feel toward them. You don't need to like your enemy. You don't need warm, fuzzy emotions toward the person who wronged you. You need to choose their goods anyway. Think about a parent who stays up all night with a sick toddler. The parent doesn't feel thrilled at 3 in the morning. The parent chooses the child's welfare over personal comfort anyway. This move stands closer to the biblical picture of love than a greeting card sentiment. So when Jesus commands love for enemies, he commands a choice, not an emotion. Anger toward someone doesn't cancel the choice for their good. Feelings and choices operate on separate tracks. A few verses earlier, Jesus gives 3 strange examples. These examples show how this love plays out in daily life. But I say unto you, that ye resist not evil, but whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other also. Sounds like a doormat move, right? Roll over, take the hit, Ask for another one. Except historians point out something sharp hiding underneath this line. A backhand slap to the right cheek, in this culture, wasn't a fight technique. This was an insult, a way a master disciplined a servant or a Roman disciplined a subject. Turning the other cheek forces the striker to either hit with an open palm, treating you as an equal, or stop. Either way, the victim reclaims dignity without throwing a punch. The same idea applies to Jesus telling people to give their coat along with their shirt to someone suing them, or to carry a soldier's pack a second mile beyond the required one. Each example takes an act of forced humiliation and turns the tables through unexpected generosity, without violence and without submission either. This isn't a weakness. This is strength expressed through a completely different playbook than the one everyone expected. Talk is cheap. Did anyone put this into practice? Start with Jesus himself. Nailed to a Roman cross, in agony, surrounded by the soldiers who drove the spikes through his hands, Jesus says one line recorded in Luke chapter 23, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Read this line again, not a distant teaching from a hillside. A prayer spoken during his own execution for the exact people executing him. The command and the example line up perfectly. Stephen follows the same pattern. Acts chapter 7 records a mob dragging this early Christian outside the city and stoning him to death for his faith. His final words, as the stones hit him, "Lord, lay not this sin to their charge." Stephen asks God to forgive the people currently killing him in the moment of his own death. This is not a theory. This is a person living out the exact command Jesus gave on that hillside, under the worst possible pressure a person faces. Fair question. Why would God ask this from anyone? Jesus gives the answer directly, right after the enemy love command, "That ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. For he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and on the unjust. And on the unjust. Rain falls on good farms and corrupt landlords alike. Sunlight warms saints and criminals with zero discrimination. God's kindness reaches everyone, deserving or not." Jesus argues his followers should reflect this same pattern. Love reaching only people who deserve love isn't special. Anyone can manage this kind of love. Love reaching people who actively work against you reflects the character of God. In other words, enemy love isn't a rule bolted onto Christianity from outside. Enemy love comes straight from how God already treats the world. This idea also explains why the early church spread so fast among people who had every reason to expect revenge instead. Roman writers of this period mention Christians with a mix of confusion and grudging respect, noting how these people cared for the sick during plagues, including sick strangers, and refused to curse the same officials who threw them to lions in the arena. Historians studying this period point to enemy love as one reason a small, persecuted movement grew into a force the empire eventually failed to stamp out. A teaching is strange, lived out consistently, tends to leave a mark on the people watching from the sidelines. Nobody watching this faces a Roman occupation. But everyone faces smaller versions of the same test. A family member who betrayed your trust. A former friend who spread rumors behind your back. A boss who treated you unfairly and never apologized. A stranger online who left a cruel comment on something you posted. Loving these people doesn't mean pretending the wrong never happened. Doesn't mean staying in a harmful situation. Doesn't mean skipping boundaries or accountability. A person stuck in an abusive relationship doesn't honor this teaching by staying quiet and absorbing more harm. Loving an enemy, in the biblical sense, means refusing to let hatred set the terms of your own life. Means wishing genuine good for someone even while protecting yourself from further harm. Means praying for a person you'd rather avoid entirely. Picture the difference this way. Two people get cut off in traffic by the same reckless driver. One person spends the whole afternoon fuming, replaying the moment, letting a stranger they'll never see again ruin their day. The other person feels the same jolt of anger, then lets the moment go and drives on with a clear head. Neither person controls the reckless driver. Only one person controls their own peace. Enemy love, at the smallest scale, starts right there. Hard? Extremely. Jesus never claimed otherwise. So what did Jesus mean by love your enemies? Not warm feelings toward people who hurt you. A deliberate choice to seek their good, modeled after a God who sends sunshine and rain on everyone regardless of merit. A command built for people under real oppression. Martyrs proved this command possible, forgiving their killers with their final breath. The same command still confronts ordinary grudges people carry today. Next time someone wrongs you, the question isn't whether you feel like forgiving. The question is whether you choose the harder, stranger, more radical path Jesus laid out on this hillside 2,000 years ago. If this changed how you read this verse, subscribe for more breakdowns of the passages everyone quotes but few understand.